Okay. Mike is live, sharing a file. Let's get going. All right, go back to the sheet we were creating, and let's scroll all the way over to this part, our float equity. Okay, and I will take these numbers right from above. So we're not inventing anything new. We did all this. So here's your float equity. All right. Okay, if I were to find the present value of these cash flows, what discount rate would I use? What's the general rule for finding a discount rate? Okay, what if I were telling you that these are cash flows to a creditor? What would I use for a discount rate? I just borrowed from the creditor, didn't I? So it's my cost of borrowing, right? So you match the rate to the party receiving it. Okay, now what happened over here? Well, you see, this is it depends on the method, of course, but this is the cash flows from the project to the whole company, right? To all parties, creditors, investors. So we use the WACC, didn't we? Okay, now if we slide across, who's the sole party that receives these cash flows? The shareholders. So these cash flows best be sufficient to earn the shareholders' required rate of return. So let's discount them at the required rate of return for the shareholder. So let's say equals, and that's RE, isn't it? So let's do NPV. Let's do RE. Just highlight this range, right? Everybody see that? All right, where have I seen that number before? Well, I know we're all kind of new to this, so maybe this doesn't flash to you right now, but if you look up, E15, that's the market value of the equity, isn't it? Right? That's the market value of the equity. 140.10 is the market value of the debt. 46702 is the market value of the project, correct? All right. So we discounted the cash flows to the shareholders, and we came up with what we call, what we've already denoted as the market value of the equity. So it worked out nicely, didn't it? All right. So let's go back a minute and let's fund this project. So let me, I'm going to take this. I had this in election notes too, but I don't want to go back there. Let's just do it again. Where am I at? There we go. So let's do, thick outside's good. Okay, let's merge. Here we go. So this project costs $300. Okay, we will fund it with debt. We will fund it with equity. Okay. All right. So how much did we borrow against this project? I think I've asked you that before. We borrowed what? We borrowed 140.10, did we not? Okay. Anyone want to guess where the rest has to come from to fund this project? Has to come from the shareholder, doesn't it? Think it? Okay. Hope that was obvious. Has to come from the shareholder. So, what does the shareholder put up? Oh, I wonder if that works. I'm not sure this works. Let's try it. Did. I guess it's a cell still, even though it's merged, it's still a single cell, so I guess you could do that, yeah. All right, so let's come back over here. So here's what's happened. The shareholder invested $159.90 in this project. I can't highlight this, why can't I? Who knows? Okay, well, anyway, $159.90, and the shareholder's position in this project is worth $326.91, isn't it? So let's see what the shareholder nets out of this. Okay, so equity investment. Let's do it a little bit differently. I'm going to say equals the project cost 300, so I'll do a negative 300, plus the amount that they borrowed against it. So I'm just going to add these two together, which is what we just did. So, and then the NPV of the equity investment would be 167.02. Is that a familiar number? How about this is time number 3 that number has appeared? Time number 1. That was our NPV, wasn't it? Time number 2. That was our APV, wasn't it? And time number 3, this is our NPV of the float equity. So under the same assumptions, all methods lead to the same value, period. So let me slow down, catch a breath here, and let's go back and see questions. What was the EQ equation? Oh my gosh, EQ equation. What are we talking about here, I wonder? EQ equation. Where do I have EQ? Let me go back. Would that be I-26? Let me ask that. Oops, there we go, that's nice. Got it, thank you, I-20, oh, someone already got it. That's B15 plus D15, and that would be correct. So that would be, let's see if that's right. I'm telling you it's right, I didn't look. That would be B15, yep, plus D15, perfect, exactly right. Exactly right. Okay, anything else? All right, looks good. All right, let's move on. Let's work with perpetual cash flows. Oh, sorry. Not quite ready for that. Let's go back up a minute. Let's see some neat stuff. All right, let's go all the way to the edge. All right. Okay, these are the flows, cash flows to the shareholders, right? This is the cash flows to your equity, cash flows to your investors, right? All the same thing? Saying the same thing, different ways? Okay, how about the cash flows to the creditors? Okay, what kind of cash flows does this project generate by the fact that it borrowed? Okay, let's start out. If you're a creditor, I'm a lender, and I made the loan for this project to your company. I made the loan to the Sunshine Company for this project. I made the loan. So what's my first cash flow? Cash flow 0 is what? No, we didn't fund it all with borrowed money. What did we fund it with? What did we borrow against it? Borrowed 140.10, the D, the debt, right? Yeah, so we borrowed 140.10 against it. Okay, and what did the creditors receive at the end of year one? Okay, what did the creditors receive? The creditors received, we repaid 13.89 of the debt, right? Paid that back. Plus, the creditor also received interest. Correct? Okay, so altogether, the creditor received the debt repaid and the interest. Okay, and let's copy that down. All right. And so if the creditors had a cash outflow of 140.10, followed by 3 cash inflows of 25.10, 55.59, and 87.18, what kind of return did they earn on that? What's their internal rate of return on this investment? Let's just see. So if I do the IRR on these cash flows, what do I get? Percent. What's 8%? That's RD, isn't it? So they earned their required rate of return on this, didn't they? All right. So now we have a balance sheet, and a market value balance sheet was, let's see, we have assets. What's the market value of this of these assets? Value, right? Isn't that market value? 467.02. Okay. So just like the creditor position is worth 140.10, let's see what happened to the project itself. Okay. So what if the project itself was worth what? Has a market value of 467.02. Okay. What kind of cash flows do the assets, right? This is the market value of the assets, right? What kind of cash flows do these assets generate? Well, they have to generate enough cash flows to fund the flows to the shareholders and to the creditors, right? So they did that. So they were able to make these payments, these cash flows to the creditors and to the shareholders. Right? So all I did is I just summed these last 2 columns, the one we just created plus the float equity. Okay. And you know what? Let's do one thing real quickly. Would you please change that to a minus? Okay. So this is the market value of the assets. And if I copy all these down, what do I get? Yeah, I get these. So these assets generated these cash flows, right? Shareholder, creditor, shareholder, creditor, shareholder, creditor, right? Did we do that? Okay, so what's the IRR of the assets? I copy across, and I get 12%. What's that? Have we seen 12% before? Yes, we have. 12% is the cost of capital with all equity financing, which is also the required rate of return on the assets. And they're doing it, aren't they? So everything is fitting together here. All right, now we'll move down. Let's see, have any questions on that? All right, seeing none, I'm gonna head out. Let's keep going here. Please type. Okay, I get you. All right, all right, all right. All right. Okay, new scenario. Let's redo this project. Okay. So instead of 100, 200, 300, it generates 45, 45, 45, 45, forever, perpetual. Okay. So let's value this project. Okay. So we know the same cost, it's the same project, except I'm changing the cash flows. And cost is so 300. And let's make sure we, under the assumption, rebalance. Nothing new. That's what we've been doing. Okay. Okay, so let's start out. What's the value? How do you value perpetual cash flows? We've done it. You remember in chapter 4, we said, what's the value of this company as a no growth? What did we do? Good.
Earnings per share over the T minus G.
Okay, well, that's the general model. What happens if it's a no growth?
The earnings per share over R.
Yes. So, general rule, perpetual cash flows, just grab the cash flow, divide by R. But you need the right R. What R do we use here? Okay, we're going to do the NPV first. So let's, in fact, we're just valuing it. So let's use the WACC. So this is worth, let's value it first. Okay, we're going to say it's a $45 cash flow, and perpetual cash flows divide by the right R, WACC. And we get 391,441. Okay. All right, here we go. Your chance. How much? Same company, right? Same everything. How much will the company borrow against this project? How much will it borrow against this project? Well, what did we borrow up here? We borrowed 30%, didn't we? So why would we not do it down below here? Let's do it again. Let's borrow 30%. Your leverage ratio, debt to value, L equals debt to value. So it will borrow 117.432. All right. What's the matching principle tell us about debt? Matching principle. You match the maturity of the borrowing to the maturity of the asset. That's the matching principle, right? So whenever you get a perpetual debt problem, you may assume that the debt is perpetual, meaning they're going to borrow 117,432 and never pay any of it back. Never. It's perpetual debt. So let's make a little note of that. It is perpetual debt. Oops. That's why I probably could use it. Perpetual debt. What does that mean? Let's make sure. Never matures. Okay. Perpetual debt. All right. So what's our interest? Well, let's go back one little thing. Okay. I'm saying that we value this just like we did the one above. So let's go back here. We keep coming across. What's the first thing we found up here? Well, we had the debt, the equity. We have, what's the change in debt? You want to see it's nothing, right? Since it never matures, you don't retire any of it. Yeah. Okay. So I want you to put that up here. Do we see it? But that would be the next thing normally. We're not going to have it here because it will not mature. So let's do our interest. Actually, you want to do the value debt? Let's do the equity too. What's the market value of the equity on this? And you can say 1 minus L times this one, or you can just subtract. Okay. What's that kind of a target for? Remember? Well, are we going to find that number again, you think? I believe we will, because we're going to also do the flow to equity method, right? And that should be the present value of the cash flows to equity. But we'll see that. That's coming up. So let's do our interest. Interest. All right. Interest equals your debt times your RD. Do we have an interest tax yield? Sure. Interest tax yield. Always, always, always the interest times the tax rate. Okay, and last number we're going to be needing. Let's do our flow to equity. Go ahead and do it. Tell me what the flow to equity will be here. Go ahead. Take a couple minutes, see if you can get it. Okay. Flow to equity. We'll start out with our cash flow. Did I even put it down? I didn't, did I? Why don't we do that somewhere? Can I move that one up? Sure. Cash flow. Remember something funny? When you say cash flow, doesn't that sound like one word? I think I wrote it as cash flow as one word for 10 years till one time when we finally got word processors and thing kept giving me the red line underneath it. I figured, you know what? That's 2 words. Okay, cash flow, 45. All right, so flow to equity. See if we got it right. Now, I'm telling you, if I give you something to do, it's your best interest to do it. You're firing with a live round. You're going to get to do it on the exam. I hope you saw that in exam 1. We did it here, I should say, on the screen. It was on the exam, wasn't it? So you're going to get to do this on the exam. Okay, so flow to equity equals the cash flow minus any debt retired. None. You want to put 0 there just as a placeholder? Sure. Minus the interest plus the interest tax shield. You get that? All right. It's not a time to follow, it's a time to generate. Don't just follow me. Anyone can do that. Generate it. Okay. All right, we're going to continue. Let's do all of our methods that we know about. Let's do an NPV. Okay, go ahead. Give me an NPV. With an N, with an N, with an N. Give me a P. A P. 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 You can do it. What? What's the value of the investment? Let's do structurally correct NPV. Cash flow 0. Cost 300, didn't it? What's the value of the cash flows? Plus value 391. So what's the difference between value and NPV? The NPV is the value with the cost removed, isn't it? That's all NPV is. So it's the value with the cost removed. Okay, now I'm going to do that. Here's the value. There's the cost. I see 91,4405. All right, let's do an APV. Okay, let's start out. We start the APV with the NPV. So how do we do that above? And what kind of adjustment do we have to make between the first example and what we have here? Let's go up above. Okay, it says here APV is the NPV, except instead of the WACC as being the discount rate, we use RU. Okay, so let's see what this would be worth if we finance it with all equity. Equals minus, I'll type it in here, minus 300. The present value of the cash flows discounted at RU. So I'm going to go plus, and the cash flows are all 45, and they are perpetual. So I'll divide them by the appropriate R. The appropriate R in this case is RU. So I'll say, and I know that RU is 12%. I can type in RU if I wanted to. I'm just trying to show you my whole thought process here. Ready? And I get $75. Okay. But there is some added value because of the tax shields. So let's value the tax shields. Let's do the present value. Interest, tax shields. All right, and the interest tax shields are what? 197, 197, 197, on to infinity, aren't they? Perpetual tax shields. Everything in here is perpetual, right? Perpetual. So what happens? We take the tax shield and we divide it by the appropriate discount rate. And that one I'm not going to try to type. Divided by, again, it's RU. Well, I'll just put RU down. Unlevered cost of equity. The cost of the unlevered cost of capital. The cost of capital with all equity financing. Okay, and I add these together and I arrive at the APV. There we go. What's left? How about float equity? Okay. And what's the present value to equity? What's their present value? Well, if I were taking the exam and I were in a hurry, I would say to myself, I already know that number. Why do I calculate it? Because what is it? You already have it. Right here. That's what it'll be. But now let's verify it. Let's discount the cash flows to equity. So what are the shareholders receiving? First year, 37.57. Second year, 37.57, 58. All the way out to infinity, right? Forever. Okay, so one more time. How do we value perpetual cash flows? We divide by the appropriate R. So let's try it. Equals the float equity divided by the required rate of return on equity. That would be RE, wouldn't it? Okay, now what's the equity investment on this one? What's the equity investment? Remember how to do that? You get a drink of water. You haven't done by the time we get back. All right. Equals project cost, 300. And against that, we borrowed what? 117.43. So the shareholder must put up the rest. And then we do the NPV. Equity. Just add these together. And look at that. NPV, the float equity, says this is worth 91.44. APV, 91.44. NPV, 91.44. Same assumptions, you get the same value, don't you? So far, so good? Okay, let me check in. All right, let's continue.
I have a question.
Oh, yeah, please.
Can you show me what you have for present value of float equity?
Yeah. Like right here?
Yeah.
Yeah. I have this, the FTE we had above, divided by the cost of equity.
Oh, okay, got it, thank you.
What'd you do wrong?
I pressed the wrong cell.
Oh, I know how to do that. Shoot, you think you got a unique skill there? You don't, I'm sorry. I know how to do that. Oh my gosh. All right, yep, pointed the wrong cell. You one up or one below, whatever. Yep, yep. I know all about that. Okay, now we're gonna do a different example. Now this is where we, completely different. This is, things change here drastically. We're gonna take this same project, okay, And if you want, we can just copy the cash flows down. And let's come up here and let's go year. Yeah, we can do that. Yeah, that'll work. Copy this over. Copy these down. 0, 1, 2, 3. There we go. All right. All right. Now we change gears. I'm going directly to debt. All right. Now, how did we borrow the first time we worked this problem? We maintained a constant debt to value ratio. We borrowed 30% of the market value. Okay, this time, I'm just going to borrow arbitrarily 90. Okay, and I'm going to pay it back in 3 equal payments. So we'll start with 90, we'll pay back 30, we'll pay back 30. Well, you want to be official about this? We'll do it. Be the first one, minus 30. So we'll pay back 30. And we'll take the one above, pay back 30. And finally, at the end of the last year, we have no more debt, correct? All right, let's do interest. Well, it's the amount you borrowed at the beginning of the year times the interest rate. OD. Okay, and how about our interest tax shield?
You show both of those again. Interest.
Yeah, it's just 90 times the RD.
Right.
And then the interest tax shield is always whatever the interest is times T. Right? Okay, and then let's copy these down. Let's do that for all 3 years. All right. I mentioned this, but this is the first time we're seeing it. And that is the APV does not require that you maintain a constant debt to value. Does not. It's the only one of the 3 methods, just one, that you can use unless you're constantly rebalancing. It's the only one. APV works if you constantly rebalance, but it also works if you don't. The other 2 don't work unless you constantly rebalance. So if you want to make a note on this one, APV only. Other methods don't work. We don't meet the assumptions of those other methods. All right, and we're assuming everything else is still what we had above, right? RU is the same, RD is the same. Okay, so how do we do the APV? Let's start out with the base case. Okay, so, and let's just make sure we see this. R equals RU. Okay, here we go. Equals NPV RU, comma, cash flows 1 through N, close it, and subtract the cost. Okay, I'll leave that one up for a moment. Well, I think people are faster than me. Okay. So I get 162.26. Is that a familiar number? Maybe not off the top of your head, but if you just look up. It is exactly what we've already done. Base case, so it doesn't change. So the base case is the same whether you rebalance or not. But now the next part. Okay, let's do a little bit of review here. Recall that in this first example we did, recall that what determines the value? The cash flows, right? We discount these cash flows, we get a value. What determines the debt? We multiply the value times a constant, don't we? Right? 30% in this case. Right? How did we get the interest? We multiplied the debt by another constant, RD, didn't we? Okay, so what have I done so far? Then let's do one more. How did we find the tax shield? We multiplied the interest by another constant. Just a value, right? So in other words, we started with value and just kept multiplying by different constants to get these different values, didn't we? And we showed earlier that if I were to change this cash flow to 200, for example, and I hit enter, then all these tax shields just changed. They just changed. So these tax shields exactly track the cash flows. And that is precisely why, I'll get this one back to where it belongs. That's precisely why we use the same discount rate in the APV on the cash flows as we did on the tax shields. Okay, fast forward to what we're doing now. Okay, if I change this same cash flow to 200, what does that do to my interest tax shield? What'll it do? As soon as I hit enter, what happens? What happens to my interest tax shield? Is that a difficult question? Does it go up or go down? Same. Yes, absolutely. Not even related. See, didn't make a bit of difference, did it? Yeah. See over here, I had the debt. I multiplied by RD to get the interest times T to get the shield. These cash flows have absolutely nothing to do with these interest tax shields. I'm sorry, these cash flows are not related in any way to these tax shields. What would it take to change these tax shields? You have to change the debt, don't you? So say I did 100. Okay, now these tax shields just changed, didn't they? Bring it back to 90. Okay, so in other words, these tax shields are directly related to the debt. So whatever is the cost of debt is the right discount rate for the tax shields. Remember, we're trying to see what do they pair up with? The tax shields pair up with what? With the debt this time, don't they? So you can't use RU anymore. They don't pair up with the cash flows. They pair up with the debt, don't they? So we're going to do present value. Oops. Shields R equals RD. Okay, R equals RD. So let's do it. Equals NPV R delta RD, and the tax shields be these three. And that gives me an APV 16492. Float equity, doesn't work. NPV, doesn't work. APV only. So this is called the fixed debt scenario, where I just fix the debt. Not related, did I value this project? Not a bit, did I? I just said I'm going to borrow this much against it. Okay, if you do not see, especially in my exam, a sentence that says the company maintains a constant debt to value ratio, then you can assume they don't. So in this particular instance, this is not a constant debt to value, is it? It just isn't. Okay. So APV is the only one you can use, and the only change compared to what we've done before is that the tax shields get a discount rate of RD, not RU. So far, so good? All right, let's see if you can make an adjustment based on what we did, just not this time, but just before this. Okay, we're going to do perpetual cash flows. And that would be here, and we'll say they're $45 again. Okay, and let's say let's borrow 100 against it. All right. Would you please value this project for me correctly? And let's go through all these again. So let's, the WACC, all the costs are the same. That's what we have above. Let's see, so make that. Well, what in the world? V just doesn't work. All costs same as above. Oh, sorry. Let's give this one a cost. Better get a cost in here. Let's say it's the same 300. Okay. Go ahead and value it for me. And make the assumption again that that is perpetual, nothing new here. Got it already?
What about value?
Well, you're probably right. See if I get what you get. All right, here we go. So let's start out with, how many methods can I use? Just APV, right? You're not going to get a WACC. You're not doing any of that, right? We already have the WACC, but we can't use it. Okay, so let's do the base case. And I've already done that. If I want to save time, I just look up and say, just look up here and say it is 75. But I won't do that. I'll work it. So I'm going to say equals 45 divided by RU, which is 12%. Minus or plus the cost of the project, I guess 75. Oh, why not? So cash flow, well, it's actually cash flow 1 to infinity divided by RU minus cash flow 0. Okay, debt. Oh, I know that. I said I'm going to borrow 100 against it. Okay, then we're going to do interest. Interest will be times RD. Eight. Interest tax shield. Take the interest times T. Oops. Okay, so float equity. You like that? You got type float equity in there? You can't do that on this one. Can't do it. Don't just fall asleep and keep typing. Okay, can't do it. So what I want first is my base case NPV. There's no constant rebalancing here, right? Okay, so base case, I'm sorry, we did that already. Okay, that's fine. Okay, now we'll do the present value of the interest tax shields. Discount those at RD. I add these together. All right. So there's your APV. Very positive. Would the company fund this project if it were financed all equity? What if we didn't borrow 100 against it? Would you still finance it? Absolutely. Positive NPV, isn't it? This is the cost of, this is the NPV if you finance it at 12%, isn't it? All equity. Okay. All right, we've done about one of everything you have to do for your assignment. We've done one of everything, at least one. Let's take a gander at your assignment. So you have two things you have to do. There's a worksheet that's on Canvas, and then there's 4 problems from chapter 19. They're both due, and it's just one, that's just one assignment, both of those. Okay, so let me show you the sheet. Okay, it starts out. Find the NPV, APV, NPV of the float equity for the following project. So what do you have? 6,000, and you have 4 cash flows. What's the difference between that and what we did already? We only had 3 cash flows, right? Okay, what do you still have to do here? You have to come up with the, okay, what's this right here? Cost of capital, all equity financing. What's that telling you? That's RU. Thank you. Sounding good. That's RU, isn't it? Okay, this is RD. What's this? That's your leverage ratio, isn't it? Way you go. Okay, so what do you have to find to make this work? You need to find what? RD? Ah, sorry. Dang, I've been doing those wrong. RE. You need to find the RE. You need to find the WACC. So how do we find RE? It's RU plus RU minus RD times debt to equity. Oh my gosh. To equity. Okay? So this is debt to values. So do I put 40% right here? Of course not. That's debt to values 40%. You want 40 over 60, don't you? Okay, you got it. Now you put your RE in, get your WACC, discount the cash flows, fill out the rest of the table, you got it. Okay, next one. Okay, same company, same everything. Company rebalances to maintain a constant debt to value ratio, except that the cost is 6,000 and the cash flows are perpetual 700. Just like the example we did. Okay, we did what? Cost of 300, cash flow of 45. Okay, so you have to do the same thing. And look at this. You can actually use the same numbers, can't you, that you did in the previous sheet? Just transfer them over. Okay, next one. All right, this is not on your sheet, but anyway, you have a balance sheet given to you. And notice there's a dirty word here. Right here. Book. So, what's the only number we take from that? And I've kind of made it obvious, I hope. Only number you take from the book value balance sheet is the debt. Okay? All right. So, shares of common stock, 400. Price per share, 40. That means your equity is 16,000, isn't it? So I have the debt, I have the equity. Okay, what are you supposed to do with this beast? Okay, estimate the WACC. That will not take long. Next thing. If the company borrows $2,000 and buys back an equal amount of stock, the additional borrowing will increase the cost of debt to 6.8%. Okay, this is the 3-step procedure. It's on either the first or second page of the lecture notes. So this is your okay, first thing you have to do is find RU. Okay. So you want the debt to value ratio, and how do I get that? I have 4,000 in debt. I have 16,000 equity. So what's my debt to value? 4,000 divided by 20,000, isn't it? Right? Don't you have a total capital of 20,000, right? Okay. So 4,000. Okay, and these are the existing numbers. So you use the existing numbers here. Use current numbers. Okay, then you go to step 2. You want to find the new RE. Okay, now you take that RU you found in step 1. RU minus, now you want the new RD. You see, it was at 6%, wasn't it? But when they borrowed that additional $2,000, the cost went up to 6.8, didn't it? So you want the new RD times the new debt minus or divided by the new equity. What's the new debt? What did they do? They borrowed 2,000. They had 4,000 in debt, so that becomes 6,000, doesn't it? What happens to the equity? They had 16,000 equity, but they're going to buy it back, $2,000 worth, so that'll become 14,000, won't it? And away you go. Last step, new WACC. You want the new debt to value times the new RD times 1 minus T plus the new equity divided by the new value times the new RE. And where do I get RE? Step 2. Hey, you might want to write those down unless you're real clear on what you want to do, because that's not on the file that you download. Okay, let's go to the next one. Next one is APV with no rebalancing. Have we done that? Okay. Okay. Value the project if the company does not rebalance. So it does not maintain a constant debt to value. Okay, this is an APV only. Only. Because they're not rebalancing, right? APV only. Okay, and they're going to borrow 3,000, repay 1,000 at the end of each of the next 3 years. So what are your debt? What happens to your debt? You start with 3, you pay back 1,000, pay back another 1,000, pay back another 1,000. So these last 2 years, your debt is 0, isn't it? Okay, just follow this, follow the same procedure. Get your what? Interest tax shields. Discount the cash flows at RU. That's 11%. And then discount the tax shields once you get them at RD. So do your base case. Do your tax shields at 8%. Next one. APV perpetuity. Company does not rebalance. This is the one I just asked you to do. Just different numbers to the letter. Last example we did. We had $300, $45 cash flows, right? This is $6,000, $700 cash flows. And cost of all equity financing is 11%. So there you go. That's your RU. Here's your RD. And next thing you know, there's your perpetual debt. Shouldn't take you very long. Okay, so you got that, these sheets. You got to answer all those. Plus, you got 4 questions from the book. Now, what I would suggest you do is just come over here and add another sheet, and then do the book questions on this sheet. Right? And they're much easier than anything I've asked you to do. Okay, and let's see, I got a few hints here at the end of the Word document. Okay, you have problems 14, 15, 16, and 17 from chapter 19. We'll get to 17 in a minute. If you read your book carefully, it will say in there that if a company uses over 10% of its total capital, over 10% of its total capital is short-term debt, you have to add another term to your WACC equation. So you would have short-term debt to value times short-term rate times 1 minus t, plus long-term debt to value times long-term rate times 1 minus t, and then plus equity to value times, anyway, that's what they'd want you to do. And I'm saying we're not going to do that. Okay. What's the nature of short-term debt? It is gone within a year, isn't it? Right? Anything that's short-term is gone within a year. So it's not permanent capital. Why are we worried about it? We won't. So what I tell you to do in this is ignore the short-term debt. Completely ignore it, just as if it isn't there. If you want to put your pencil through it in your book, that would work too. Just ignore it. So your WACC just has the normal looking equations. Okay? Then in question 15, I believe they issue stock and buy back debt. Okay, so when you get that debt to equity, you just add to the equity number, subtract from the debt number, whether they're buying back. Okay. Question 16, this is a fixed debt number. This is APV only. APV only. All right, 17 is what happened here? More concise language, clear your reader, up yours. This is similar to the rock crusher example in chapter 19. Well, we've done one, we just did one. Perpetual debt, no rebalance. That's part A. Okay, part B, I want you to rework the problem, but use a constant debt ratio of 40%. So that's the example of perpetual cash flows that we did with a constant debt to value ratio. We've done something like every one of these. It's a little bit of work, but you've done it. So if you followed me at all and you can just take the examples and apply them to the assignment, you should be fine. If you can't, dial me up on Monday during my office hours. Or if you want to try to get together tomorrow, I can do that too. So let me just check one last time. Do we have any last minute questions here? All right, doesn't look like it. If you follow what we did, I don't believe it'll be that difficult, but at the same time, I still wouldn't start it Monday at midnight. It's a little bit of work, you know, you gotta. Can you imagine this assignment on paper? No Excel? I would. I never gave this assignment before, you know, until I started using Excel in this class. Oh, absolutely not. Uh-oh. Is the Excel spreadsheet available on Canvas? It certainly is. If it isn't there, I'm going to get it there.
So it's there.
It's there? Okay. So it's just in the cost of capital group, right?
What? Yeah, it's the file right now.
Okay, very good. Yeah, you got it. Okay. Okay, thank you. Have a good weekend.
Thanks, you too.